There's another activity that I first heard from Sean Acker as well, which was writing for 2 minutes about one thing you're grateful for. So kind of going deep. So those people like have a lot to say about it. And maybe you get more into feelings then, and you can just go deeper of why. And you literally set a timer and you write for 2 minutes. Welcome to the Hope and Hairspray podcast. I'm Rhodey Kate.
And I'm Kelly Osborne. Today, we will lead you on a journey of self-development and professional growth. You will be inspired to be the best version of who you were meant to be.
Let's jump in.
Hello, hello. Here we are. Thank you so much for joining us today. I know I always say this is my favorite topic, but this is a really good one, especially for now. Yeah. And today we're going to talk about gratitude. Rhodey.
It's a good one.
Oh, it's a good one. It's a good one. It's the time where we start to reflect and become more thankful for things. So, Rhodey, how do you practice and put it into your daily routine of gratitude, or does it just come up seasonally?
No. Well, okay. So, my corporate background, it always came up from a strategic planning perspective. So when I plan my year, I always want to start with gratitude. One of the things I'm thankful for, where I am right now, what's going on. And so from there, I actually kind of broadened it. This was, a number of years ago. Obviously, gratitude is a hot topic. Lots of people talk about it. And I think we practice it from time to time. But I started with, if I'm about to go into a project, if I'm about to go into a holiday season, I will try to take time to go, what am I grateful for? And really kind of spend that time. That's the way I started anyway. How about you? How did you start?
Super important. I think the first time where I saw it really brought to the forefront was Oprah, right? She did the gratitude journal, and then there were gratitude journals everywhere. And I thought, wow, I wonder that. And my faith has that background too, to be grateful for small things, large things. Right. And so it's that reflective, but putting it into an intentional practice, that was something. But what happens if that's not part of your life? Where's that switch? I mean, why would you practice gratitude?
Well, again, from a corporate perspective, I was at a conference, one I really love, and I got to hear Sean Acker, who is the Harvard professor of the happiness guy who taught at Harvard. And but he's brilliant. You should definitely check him out. And when he told me about how gratitude really impacts your positivity and your optimism, and he had a ton of examples. Like if you took, I think the range were certain group of people, they were older in life, and you had them write 2 minutes every day. Their scores of pessimism to optimism really changed, which, okay, we expect that. But 6 months later, it was still higher. And so when I heard those kinds of things, where I've always it's touchy-feely, and,
sure.
and I'm a touchy-feely person, so that totally worked for me. But when I heard that, I was like, oh, there's some value. And I started incorporating it then in some of the workshops that I did, and then some of the, we talk about the sabbaticals, but even back in my corporate life. And so I think it's a time when you say, I want to be intentional. And there's a number of tools and tricks you can do. And obviously Oprah and having a gratitude journal is a great thing. And I think what they say, right, the tip is, what are three things that you're grateful about today? Which I think we can all do.
Definitely.
Don't you think?
Definitely.
Yeah.
For sure.
And even if you're not a big journaler, I'm not a big journaler, I find the power in it, but to do it consistently every day. I'm a spot journaler. But if I'm trying to go through a period of time, I do that. The trick is there's supposed to be 3 different things for all the days. Find something different. And in the beginning, it's good. And then later, you're like, oh, I had a great cup of coffee, because you've already thanked. You're grateful for your family, and you're grateful for all these things. And so then you start getting those smaller aspects. And I think that's when you start to really shift on, there's a lot to be grateful for, right?
There sure is. Well, and the science, you hit on that a little bit with Sean Acker, but the science is
pretty fun.
It's mind-blowing, literally, that the human brain cannot physiologically focus on fear, anxiety, stress, and gratitude at the same time.
Right.
We do the hand trick. I always have our clients put their hands up on either side of their head so they're out of their peripheral vision.
Right.
And you have to choose to look at one or the other. And that's what our brain does. Our brain physiologically under MRI, like they've measured it, that it can't do both. It can either be grateful or be stressed and worried and doubt and fear, all that going on, which is a lot of our lives, right? But that you have the control to make the choice to switch. So can you tell on days you don't practice gratitude? Are you hanging out and, I'm starting to stress and worry. Do you level set then?
I personally, yes, I do. If sometimes it can take me a while because I think I was brought up to be a worrier. Like our mom was pretty good at it, and so my sister and I are pretty good at it. And I think my brother is too. So I do have to kind of, I do two things, but gratitude is one of them, where I will just say, you know what, there's so much to be thankful for. Things will work out. Then I kind of have to lean into my faith. Things will work out. But yes, absolutely. And if I feel like I'm like down or depressed or really worried, then I'll actually put pen to paper. Sometimes I'll even get on my phone. So I know a lot of people are really digitally focused, and you always have your phone. So sometimes I'll just put them in my notes, the 3 things, just to kind of booster that and remind me. So I think the journaling part is really good. And you don't have to keep it. It can be on pieces of paper that you get rid of. It can be on sticky notes. My favorite is, well, as Americans, we celebrate Thanksgiving in November. Canadians might be October or September. I can't remember. I'll have to look that up. But doing like as a family where you can put up a tree. It's kind of weird because it's actually opposite. Like we put up a sort of the branches of a tree, right? A naked tree. And then we had leaves there. And then each person would write what they were thankful for. Or make a wreath. I know one of my sister-in-laws, she had all the kids do it and they made a wreath out of it. But something that everyone can join into or to be visual. And that's a great way because then you get to, in that case, you get to hear other people. But just writing it down wherever you can from a day-to-day perspective.
For sure. That reminds me so much of a quote that I say often is you will find what you're looking for.
You say that.
You will find
that
it,
a lot. Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
It is so easy to shift over and start looking at what you really do need to find.
Right.
Because if you're looking for a reason to be stressed, or sometimes we light our own fires, right? And
Fire starter.
sometimes we do.
Yeah, we do.
But you will find what you're looking for. So decide what to look for.
Yeah.
What is and we may be naturally bent to look down the pessimistic side, right? We could be.
Yeah.
Right. And then those with positivity, the Clifton Strengths positivity, it's a little easier to look at the silver lining.
Right.
Right. But make a choice. It's yours to make.
It is.
Right.
And I think you are kind of bent one way or the other way naturally. Interesting when you talk about positivity. I hope he doesn't be mad at this. So when my husband took it, I was surprised he was high in positivity because that's not necessarily the vibe I get from him. And what I realized was that is his natural bent, but because of his family and sort of how they sometimes look at things, and he adjusted it to, well, I'm going to lower my expectations so I don't get disappointed. And so this kind of weird thing about how positivity can, you can have it, yet it can go a little bit amok, if you will. But if you are bent not to positivity, I definitely think recording your thoughts around it are important. And the gratitude journal, doing 3 every day, they usually say at the end of the night, I just did some reading last night, so I don't have all the facts in my head, but they talked about it actually impacts you sleeping better, which reminded me, because we just did a sabbatical this weekend. I don't know, what percentage of time do you think we spent talking about sleep?
It was huge for the women there.
It was huge. Huge. And they all struggled with it for different reasons and had different ideas. Right. I know you do. Well, I do too. So, and for different reasons. But they said that, and there was some statistic that showed that it did make a difference versus being some kind of a nice idea. And I was like, oh, I need to dig. So I saved that. I'll tell you more about that next time. for another time.
So if you institute this, try it at night is
Yeah,
what we're saying.
Yeah, right,
Give it
right,
a shot. If you don't sleep well, maybe
Right.
it's good to start practicing gratitude before you go to bed.
Right.
Here's the things I was thankful for today. My husband and I do a connect time every night before we go to bed. And it's tell me one thing about your day and how you felt about it.
Right.
And yes, sometimes there are hard things.
Right.
There just are, and that's when we want to share them. But the other person can't say anything about or talk while the other person is talking. So I do notice, though, when it's a positive thing, when both of ours are positive things, it is definitely easier. So I'm going to add to that data.
Okay. Add to that. Great. Well, and I think I don't know how many times you've sat down around especially Thanksgiving table, and everyone said what they're grateful for, and you go around. I think that's a great way of doing it. That's seasonally. You can do that otherwise as well. There's another. So obviously, saying the 3 things you're grateful for, right, is great. There's another activity that I first heard from Sean Acker as well, which was writing for 2 minutes about one thing you're grateful for. So kind of going deep. So those people have a lot to say about it. And maybe you get more into feelings then, and you can just go deeper of why. And you literally set a timer and you write for 2 minutes. And you do that every day versus the 3. So there's different types of things you can do in that. And I liked those one. The 2 minute, I don't like to physically write. That's hard for me. I can't even read my writing. By the time I end 2 minutes, I can't read my writing. So sometimes I'll voice record it or just say it out loud to myself, which I'm sure people think I'm a little bit crazy. Yeah, my sister and I both talk to ourselves kind of aloud. And even one of her daughters-in-law said, hey, do you know you talk to yourself out loud a lot? She's like, yes. I'm like, yeah. So, but just however you need to, 2 minutes focused on something, use whatever works best for you. You can tell someone for 2 minutes if that's something. That could be someone's end of night, right? Tell me 2 minutes of what went really well, what you're super grateful for, and why, and how you made it feel.
Yeah, I love that. So another thing that you can do a little litmus test on of what you're filling your brain with is your social media scroll, right? Like what's coming through there? What are you feeding it with? Just take a quick, 10-minute scroll and see what they are. You can block those. You have control over what the algorithms are reading from you. Or another thing, you can follow us on social media because it is almost exclusively positive.
Yeah.
We definitely will bring up something that might be something somebody's struggling with,
right.
but always a tool, right?
Yeah.
What you can do to change that. But just do a quick test of your social media and see if what you're watching, what you're filling yourself with, especially right before you go to bed. Is it negative? Is it the news? Is it do you dig into a story about somebody who was on a random cruise and they, horrible things happened to them? Like what are you what are you listening to? Really? Because on our Instagram, on Hope and Hairspray, on Facebook, on Hope and Hairspray, YouTube, some of our shorts, they'll definitely fill you up for sure.
Absolutely.
For sure.
They're really just snippets of what we say here. Yeah. So kind of if you haven't seen it, you're like, hey, I want to hear it. Or if you have seen it, you're like, I need to remind myself, right?
Right.
Like, what was that about? Let me hear that again.
So start replacing those. Start putting some good stuff into your social media feed, right? And really start to change
how you look
from one side to the other.
What I love about this, right, is this idea, and this happens in communication. So a little bit, not really, we're getting off topic on gratitude, but the idea of when maybe something isn't going well, so you are on the negative side of things, right? So you start there. But what you want to try to do is sort of, I feel like the
sprinkler.
Yeah, you sprinkle over to the good side of things. And I think when things are going amok, just even a pause, a couple deep breaths that says, I'm grateful for, and you can use a standard. I'm grateful for my family. I mean, or whomever, just something, because that'll get your head going in the right way, and it's almost like a life preserver that you can throw out to someone.
Yeah,
right?
Feel free, grab the low hanging fruit.
Right, exactly.
Permission.
Exactly. Now, one of the things we were talking about that I did at one of my companies, I didn't do it. Someone in our wellness team did it, but we did 30 days. A month of gratitude. And we usually did it leading up to Thanksgiving. And there would be a calendar, And so you don't have to journal, right? This is good. I think this is good for non-journalers, right? There's a small square that you just have to fill in one thing, and it can kind of be, it doesn't have to be a full sentence even. You don't even have room for a full sentence. And I love that. We would put that up. We did it like on our office doors or on our cube. And then at home, I put it on our refrigerator so my husband could, we could both do it. And so that month of gratitude. Now, it makes great sense around Thanksgiving, but you can do it any time of the year. Or if you're feeling a little low. I mean, I'll be honest, sometimes January is hard. I mean, you just come off of all the fluffy things, however you celebrate the holidays and which holidays you celebrate. January it's usually cold. It can be a tough month. So maybe you do it then as a family. What I can do too is why don't I put one out there on our website?
That would be great.
Yeah, I'll figure out how to do that, y'all. But we'll put that out on the website. So if you want one to download, you can do that.
Which is hopeandhairspray.com. Easy, all spelled out.
All spelled out.
Right, super easy, or just search for us as well.
hopeandhairspray.com. I'll put it on the podcast page so you can look for it because we've got a couple of labels at the top. So
perfect.
But it's easily done. You can do your own. There's no problem there. But we'll do something pretty and hopefully inspirational for you so you can start doing that.
If Rhodey's doing it, it will be pretty.
I was thinking I might get help from our from our graphic designer.
Oh yeah, she's so talented.
She's just a beautiful lady. Yep,
definitely. So the one tool that we use at our sabbaticals that is so powerful was a tool I learned of. It's got to be 15 years now, probably.
Well, how old were your kids? It's long. I bet it's longer than that.
Yeah, they're like 6th or 7th grade. So, and they're going to be 28. So we, I used to mentor a group of girls and we did a book study. The book was by author Tommy Newberry and his book was called The 4-8 Principle. And this, I don't know that he called it this, he may have, but we definitely termed it Funk Busters. Because we get in a funk and it's hard to get out. So if you can rely on the science of your brain, that your brain will follow your sprinkler trying to get over to the other side, to the gratitude side. And it had 5 questions that you would ask to make that shift. And I remember our kids would get in the car on the way to school. And granted, it's only about a 2-mile ride. So we kind of like shrunk it to what are 3 things in each of these categories. But they would get in, you know what sucks? And I would look at them and they're like, no, not the Funk Busters. Yeah. And we would go through it. Who are 3 people that love you?
Right.
What 3 things are you looking forward to in the next week? What are 3 of your talents?
Right.
What are 3 things that you have accomplished, right? And we'd go through those.
And what 3 things you're grateful for? That was definitely what, yes,
and
of
then,
course. Yeah,
of course, what 3 things are you grateful for? So it had 5 things. And I still have this lime green tattered index card with lines that I folded and put in my dash. And it hung there for a decade. And what was so cool is by the time they would get to school, they would hop out of the car, have a great day, Mom. And I'm like, yes.
It worked.
It works.
And 2 minutes, right? You said it was a 2-minute ride. It's another 2-minute exercise. Doesn't take a long time. You don't even have to go through all 5, right?
It does not take a long time. And the proof is in the pudding because I remember one of my kids called from college. Mom, can you send me a picture of the Funk Busters? I have somebody who needs it.
Okay.
And that was the ripple. So what's really cool about this is when you start doing it,
others
they'll be drawn to you. They'll wonder why you're so positive and optimistic. Not everybody. Now, not everybody's going to want a piece of your pie, right? It's just not even going to happen. But you will have a better day. Right? Just try it. If you're doubters, just try it. Just try the Funk Busters, see if it works. instituted. I know at our sabbatical, we shared this and they're like, that's going to be how I journal every day.
Actually, they do. You know what? In our sabbatical, this section, which we usually do near the end, because it's actually part of the definition of hairspray. We haven't talked about that in a while.
Stick.
It helps. Hairspray, the definition of hairspray are things that make things stick and the ability to make things happen. And part of life you have great plans and you have great intentions, and then something kind of knocks you down a little bit and you need to get back up again, right? And can you say those sentences without thinking that song from the whatevers about 15 years ago? I get knocked down, but I get up again.
Yes.
I can't say those sentences. I can't say that sentence without thinking that in my head.
Yeah, absolutely.
But from that perspective, this is one of the tools that we give them. And I have to tell you, that's one of their favorite things when they walk away with, right?
It's so good. It's practical.
Yes. And easy.
And super easy. And if you're a doubter,
Try it.
just try it. Just give it a try. You can look for Tommy Newberry 4-8 Principle. The book is fantastic. But if you just grab out that one application, one tool, easy tool from it, and then you can practice gratitude and you can just watch the changes in yourself and those around you.
You know what? Maybe I should put that on I'll put that on our podcast page too. I'll do one of those, because that's something we don't normally do at our sabbatical. And this time, and several times they've said, "Hey, could we have that?" And we're like, "Well, we wanted you to write in your own handwriting," but apparently, at some point, when you hear that over and over again, it's time to actually create it for them. So I'll put that on our podcast page too, under Hope and Hairspray.
That sounds great.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for tuning in today. We give you practical tools that you can start shifting from the fear, worry, and anxiety over to gratitude.
Absolutely.
Give it a try, and we'll see you next time.